We are being outdoors actually because sorry, we're having we're having everything issues today. They are repairing the water of the building. They've cut down the internet. It's just one of those days. It's just one of those chaos days where everything breaks down just before you need it, which is totally fine. But whatever, you don't care about that, and neither will I tomorrow. So let's get into the things that actually matter. And that is today's topic is how do we create extreme employee retention? Uh, I'm going to draw some experience from my side in the military, where we don't have the ability to offer, monetary incentives, more time off, anything basically. But the only thing we can do is to, you know, figure out what it is that actually drives them and things like that, things that are non-monetary. And that's what we're going to look in today. And these are things that we developed in the military, in the bomb disposal teams that I worked on, but they work also in the office space. They work in every scenario because they're based on really human psychology, how we work as humans. So if you could get this and figure this out, like your life will be so much easier and your people will stick around for a long, long time. And I want to make sure that I have the right people on board with me today. So you are in the right place if you have, rock star employees or you're like super good people who kind of like just jump ship as soon as someone, waves a, $100 bill. That's another company that gives them an offer, they're off. That's something we got to figure out because you can't just increase the prices until ever. You want to make sure they stay for other reasons. So this is specifically made for you guys who don't have the ability to offer more money, paid vacation, or other fiscal benefits. But you do want to keep those like average or rockstar employees so you can develop them into top performers. Like, because without the time on our side, they will never stick around. We both know that it takes time to develop them into really good employees or really good whatever you want them to develop in. So we need that time on our side. And these tools today are going to give you that. And you're going to be fascinated by how simple it is or how straightforward it is that you might not even think it's going to work. But hopefully I'll build a pretty solid case here today with some case studies, testimonials, and all of that to make you see that, shit, this is good. The bonus effect of all of this is that you basically get a team that kind of runs on autonomy, which needs minimum guidance from you as a leader. And that's a big deal. That's a huge deal because that means you will have the time to, do the big important stuff while they focus on the details and figure out the day-to-day activities, which means you will be able to get home on time for dinner and hang out with family and leave work where work belongs. Hope that makes sense. So there are basically three things that needs to happen. There's three components you need to have if you want to build ownership, engagement, and a high performance team. If you don't figure this out, you'll most likely be stuck, working late, redoing the tasks of your team, wondering if it's you or them who screwed it up that you're not on deadline, and you will have an ever expanding to-do list, because you'll be the one in charge of doing everything. You will be the bottleneck of your team, the bottleneck of the company, or whatever it is. But we'll figure that out. I'll give you those tools today. It's also important that you communicate in a way that makes them understand, care, and want to solve the task. I hope this makes sense. It's not just about them understanding what the task is. You got to communicate so they have a reason to care. A bunch of people come to me and they say, my team don't care. And I ask them, dude, have you given them any reason to care about it? And usually it becomes quiet. Like, no, not really. So why would they? It's our job to kind of figure out ways to create that, engagement and the will to solve the task. Some will have it, within them already. Awesome. But really good leaders are expert at finding those things in each individual and speaking to that so that they will care and they will take ownership. So that's also something you will learn today. Okay. So the common question, right? Before we get into like the details, the specific on how to do this, I want to give you a story that kind of hopefully will make you understand if it's them or you who's the problem. Let's put it that way. Taylor Swift, it's me, that type of thing. Basically, this picture is from me. I took this in Sevilla, Spain, last year. I was with a friend. We're going to pick a restaurant to have some food, and she's like, "Oh, I want to go here. I want to go here. We're going to here." She couldn't decide, and then she asked me to pick. I'm like, "Oh, sweet, I'll pick." And then she was like, "Oh, I want it to be." I think she said vegetarian, something like that. Okay, I want to be vegetarian. So I went out and I found a vegetarian place. And then she's like, no, also it needs to be a good ambiance. Okay, so it's vegetarian and ambiance. Got it, no problem. Moving on. Find another place. It's vegetarian. It has a nice ambiance. And then she was like, too expensive. I'm like, oh, okay. Shit. Vegetarian, ambiance, price. Got it. Three things. I can do this. And you know what happens, right? I found these three things, and what next? A fourth thing happened. And then we had four things that I needed to figure out. And then same thing happened to me, what is most likely happening to a bunch of your employees, and which happens everywhere. What do you think happened? Yeah, right. I stopped caring. Like I'm like, you're just making things up all the time. So every time I solve the task, you come back and tell me to change. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, whatever. You figure it out. It's on you. I don't really care anymore. So why am I telling this story? Well, to be honest, a lot of people lead their teams this way. This is how their teams are run. They just give them a shitty order, a shitty instruction, and if the employees go out there and try to fix it, they come back with something, and then, the manager or leader is like, oh shit, but you also need to be this. Oh, okay. And then we do repeat this cycle until they're sick of us, until they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Which just kills engagement, it kills task ownership, and it makes them, in the end, want to look for somewhere else to play or to work. But if we can fix that, if we can instead give an order that's so detailed that they can succeed and that they can feel like, oh shit, I could not only do this, but I can do it better than the person who ordered it, right? Because I know what they want. I know what type of food she wants. I know what my manager wants from me. So I can go out there and succeed. That's a big deal. And those are the things we're going to talk about. If you, or like when you stay till the end, I'll give you the template you need to make this super simple. Basically, it will be like a fill in the blanks template where you could just use that, and then you have communicated to them in a way that makes a lot of sense. Sweet. So I learned this stuff on one of my deployments. This is me and my team. I'm the little chubby guy in the middle, and this is our vehicle in the back, and this is our 6-man EOD team. It's explosive ordnance disposal. It basically means we're the ones who go in to take bombs out of the ground so that other units can drive through and do it that safely. It's a job where it's a high risk, it's long hours, it's a shitty pay. There's literally no real reason to do this for a long time. That's why most people don't do it for a long time. Most teams only do this for one repetition. They do all the training, spend 4 years of training, and they do one deployment, and then they just like, screw it, it's too much, I'm doing something else. We did 4 rounds of it. We did 4 times as much as anyone else. Or 3 rounds, I should say, and then another one. But we did 3 consecutive ones back to back, basically. It's 3 times more than anyone else. And I didn't offer them anything else. I didn't offer them more pay because I couldn't. I didn't offer them more vacation because I don't have that responsibility, or I don't have that mandate. But I did figure some other stuff out. And basically what I did figure out is that if I could run my team on operations, in the field, the same way if I could do that the same way in the office, the same as in the field, then I could build this autonomous team that takes a bunch of ownership and makes things work autonomously, and with them being the owner of things instead of me. And it works like super good. And then I try to implement it in business teams, which is the things we're doing the last couple of months, and it works ridiculously well. So I'm basically going to share all the things that we did, the things we do inside Delegation Mastery, the things we do inside the leadership games, which you could also access. All of that things, like the short version of that, is what we're going to go through today. And all of that comes from understanding what your teammates truly wants and expanding on that. So the framework we use, which we call a high-performance team framework, is basically this. There are 3 things you need to communicate. It's purpose, it's the end state, and there's one last thing that we really, really need to figure out, and which most people fail at. And we've taken all these things and we put them inside a super simple tool. So even if you don't remember all the hows and whys and stuff, you will have this tool at the end of this. And as long as you fill that out, the chances of them actually engaging autonomously and over time, it's going to just 10x. It's basically magic. It's magic in a Google Docs. The closest I can create. So what is this? Okay, so we have the rules. Basically, the rules, when we communicate these three things, uh, let's put it this way. Uh, the rules is basically the first thing that needs to be communicated. The rules are something like, what does the box look like? What are the frameworks for their mission? What are they, what can they do and what can they not do? What are the rules? The second thing we need to communicate is the purpose. Why is this thing important? And then we need to communicate why it's important to them. Like, it's a big mistake. A bunch of people that go talk about the vision of the company, how, this 50-year plan of taking over the world. And to be honest, most employees don't give a shit. Like, they just want something that connects with them. Right? It's something like a reference for me would be like, you're with your team, you're in the middle of somewhere, and soldiers go to war, enemies start shooting at them. They're not going to think about like freedom, democracy, and all that stuff. No, heck no. They're just going to want to go back home to their family and be safe. And they're just going to fight because of the people next to them. So the higher purpose is beautiful and good, but when it all comes down to it, like when it's rough and tough, it's like something that truly connects to them as persons, as them as individuals. So we need to find that, and we need to communicate that. And when we do, beautiful things start to happen. The last thing we need is a super clear end state. Like, what will the world look like when the task is complete? This is basically like, what have they created? What's the difference between now and then? Like, what should they come back with when the task is solved? It looks something like this, right? If we communicate all these things, you will see that at the center, that's where we have the high performance team, where we have the innovation, ownership, stuff like that. But if we miss one of these aspects, which we'll look on right now, we'll see what happens. So let me know if this makes sense. You could just give me a thumbs up or wherever you guys are at. Yeah. So if we do have the purpose and the end state, we will have people who care. We will have people who do the right things, but results are usually useless because they will break some type of rule. Maybe it's a actual law. You've done something and it just breaks a law, so we can't really use it. It could be something like, a marketing team creating an ad, but it goes against Facebook policies, so you can't run it. Even if it's like a ridiculously good ad and so well done, and they cared for the task, they did the right things, but they broke like a rule, so now you can't use it. That would be a position where like they don't really understand the rules. They are driven and they are, they have a clear vision of what you want to do, but they broke a rule. Make sense? Okay. So if you communicate the rules and the end state, but you forget about the purpose, you basically have the people who follow the rules, they do the right things, but there's like no extra stuff. These are the guys who checks out exactly when they need to, and they always deliver what you want them to do, but it's never exciting. It's never anything more. They never innovate. They're just the people who show up and do their work. And I think this is awesome. It's great. You could if you could have people just like this, all of them, you would do great. It's fine. It's totally fine. But you will not innovate. You will not create new things. It would just kind of be the same in some sense. Sounds good? Yeah, exactly. These are also the guys who would like hide a huge opportunity from you because they know if you do this, you will, it will likely entail more work for them. And since they don't really care that much, they would just like, whatever, I'll just leave that to the side. Okay, the last part. What if we communicate the purpose, the rules, but we miss out on the end state? Yeah, these are basically the people who are like going in the wrong direction, you could say. So yes, exactly. Sorry, I'm just reading some comments here. Yeah, so these are guys who kind of they're really engaged with the task. They really want to do things, and they follow like the laws and the procedure and things like that. But what you get out of them, like the end state of the thing, was not really what you wanted. I don't really have a good example here for you right now for some reason because I can't open up my little notes here. But I'll run through another way of seeing this, and maybe it will clear out a bit. Okay, so here's the, if you figured all of these things out, you will end up in the middle. And for some reason, when I typed in mind blown, this cat popped up. So that's why I did. Okay, cool. So another way you can see it is something like this. If you communicate purpose and end state, but you miss out the rules, you will have the dudes working outside of the box. They are just like not doing the right things. If you get people who figure out the rules and the end state but don't really care, you have these guys, right? They're in the box, they're doing things, they're on time, whatever, but they're like there's nothing new, nothing fancy, nothing at all. And then you get the people who figure out the purpose and the rules, and they're just lost. They're doing good things on paper, but they're not really doing the things that will lead you forward. Maybe they're doing something that was like useful a week ago or something like that, but it's not really where we're now. But in the middle, we will find the beautiful stuff. We will find a team who's autonomous, innovates, it's trusting, and just blows up ownership. And this is where you want to be as a leader, because everything is just so simple. It's just this is the good life, because everything will just happen without you having to be the bottleneck of the team or the company. And it's literally just like a cake, right? If you miss one ingredient, or it's in the wrong order, or it's like in wrong volume, you're pretty much screwed. So then the question is like, okay, what's the freaking order? What's the amount? What's the volume? How the frick do I do this? Well, I'm gonna show you. It's beautifully simple. Yeah, let's see it. We are gonna have a look at this tool basically that I'm gonna share with you. Give me a sec. Switch to that side. That was interesting. Okay. So you will see here a bunch of tools that I have created, and I'll show you the most beautiful one. Oh, there we go. There we go. Always a little bit of a pain and suffering with the with the LinkedIn Live. I'll just sing for you until then. Okay, maybe not. Not appreciated. Got it. Here we go. I think you can see me fairly well right now. Awesome. So now that you kind of hopefully understand like what pieces needs to be in the puzzle, the question is like, how the heck do I do this? How do I make sure that I have all these things and I communicate to their their inner wants and needs and stuff like that? I do have a specific training on how to figure out what it is that drives them without asking them or without having weird questions. It's a very interesting way of doing it. If you want that, just comment and I'll make sure to send that training or invite you for the next training. Okay, so here's the pretty sweet tool that I'm going to give you. This will unlock a bunch of things. I'm just going to blast through it pretty quickly, and then you'll be able to implement this today. So here's the thing. What you need to know first is that if you're delegating a task, whatever it may be, you always do these things. Recognize, purpose, end state rules. So whatever it is you do, however small the task is, you're going to be like, I'm just going to send them a freaking Slack message. And then later on, you're going to be pissed off that they didn't really get it. So now you spent 1 hour fixing it. But if you do this, you now know that you have plenty of information for them to work on and for them to work on it autonomously. Do this every time, okay? I'm going to give you an example in a little bit. But first, every task needs to have this red little box. Purpose, end state requirements. Sorry, rules. And then you can expand on some other stuff here, which I also have training on if it's more complex. Maybe it's a 4-week project you want to delegate someone, you want to make sure that they don't come back to you every 30 minutes with questions. Then we need to do all of this. But for now, purpose, end states, and rules will be 90% of the things you need. So here's a live example of someone I worked with a while back. So the purpose in this situation is to reduce the time between receiving the order and sending the package. This is a chocolate factory business. And the task also aims to point aims to point out blah, 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 blah. This is the purpose. This is the bigger picture. Here's the end state. Okay. And I always want to open up like it. When the task is solved, something has happened, right? X number Y is packed into C and plays at something. This is the answer. And then you put the, okay, update this bad boy. The rules. How will you measure success? Oh, chaos here now. The dogs are going, they're going cray cray. Here's how you measure out like success. What does it mean to be success? You know, this should be like, this should pass the alien test. There should be an alien be able to come down, say, okay, check, check, check. Rules are, we have reached the rules, so therefore it's an accomplished task. Does that make sense? Okay, so I really want to keep this below 30 minutes, and we're just approaching the 30-minute limit. So when you now have questions about this, don't feel free to reach out to me, and I will send you this stuff. I will send you some extra training if that's what you need. But to be honest, if you just do this part every time you delegate someone and you train them on how to look towards like the bigger picture, something they care about, you define what the future looks like more specifically, but exactly what it is that you want. Remember that, you know, it needs to be vegan. It needs to be all these things. You need to set the stage for that early on. Does that make sense? I'm happy it makes sense for a few of you guys. Cool. Yeah, you will get all of this inside of something that's called Delegation Mastery, which is my main program. Or you could also join another much more like do-it-yourself type of thing, which is called the Leadership Games, which is a pretty cool thing where you can access all of this and you'll have weekly updates, you have coaching, you have all of that stuff. You will find that inside of school.com/leadership games. It's a pretty sweet deal because it's like $9 per month. It will be 99 in a couple of weeks. But if you sign up now, it will be $9 forever, which is the cool part. I'll send you the link in here. You could go to that one and you'll get access to all the trainings and all that stuff. But if you just want the toolkit, just comment below and I'll make sure to send you that. Cool. Anything else? Okay, good. Then I think we're done. Do we have any questions? Oh, that's the wrong one. Cool. Thank you so much. See you later.